They always said I'm wrong, but what they doing today? I think they want me gone, but I ain't going away. They told me I was wrong, but look at my ass today. Da 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 da.
Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Tim, he's KJ. Hopefully you guys enjoyed his NHL coverage. We're going to get to the NFL in a second, but first off, you can check us out at therealsportstalk.wordpress.com. You can follow me on Twitter at CashKelly, KASH Kelly _TRST. And what's your Twitter?
17Devils17.
You follow that, man. And yeah, we sort of decided to dress up. I don't even know what it was. KJ had this ugly wrinkled shirt and his backpack. So, you know what? We said YOLO, and we did it.
And we always got the safety helmet on, like we told you very many times.
Remember, kids,
always wear your helmets.
Alright, but we're not trying to take this show as too much of a joke. So, let's get on to Michael Vick, who made probably what most people consider a joke comment the other day that is being absolutely blown up and, in my opinion, misconstrued by the media. But we will get to that in just a second.
That's the media's job.
Yeah, well, that kind of is true. But I'll read you guys his quote, we'll give you our thoughts, and then leave your thoughts in the comment section below. So here's a quote Michael Vick had the other day when talking to Derek Gunn of Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia. He said, when I look at our football team and what we have on paper, I think about the great Dallas Cowboys teams, San Francisco 49ers teams, and Green Bay Packers teams when I was growing up. How they position themselves to compete and be one of the best teams out there. And that was actually a separate quote from the next quote he had, which was actually an answer where he was elaborating onto this answer. He said, I think we have a chance to be that. I think we have a chance to develop a dynasty. Now, this really would not be a huge deal. I think it would be talked about if we did not go through the dream team nightmare of last year. But the one thing that I think is different about this is, first of all, Michael Vick is the franchise quarterback. He signed an $100 million contract last year with the Eagles over 6 seasons. And Vince Young, let's get this out of the way. First of all, Vince Young last year was joking when he said that. Michael Vick has been asked to revoke this comment, not by the team. Andy Reid's still behind the quote too, but Michael Vick was asked if he wanted to take back this comment, and he said no. And quite frankly, from your starting quarterback, that's what you want. When Vince Young comes out and says it, I mean, Vince Young's trash in my mind. And I'm not trying to over-exaggerate anything. Vince Young cannot throw the ball, and he's not a good quarterback. Michael Vick is a franchise quarterback, I think a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and when he says this, it's different because you want your starting quarterback to think this. Now, I wouldn't have come out with the quote that I think we can be a dynasty. I think that obviously he may have set himself up there, but in a lot of ways, you're just happy that your franchise quarterback who had a rough season last year, you're happy that he has confidence in himself, and a team that had a rough season last year, but looks like they are going to come back stronger this year. They have a very tough schedule, but what do you think about the overall quote?
Well, the overall quote, as soon as I saw it, was, here we go again. But like you elaborated on the fact that Vick is the franchise player, he's the franchise quarterback, he's basically the face of the franchise right now as we speak. So it's a little different, like you said. Vince Young saying it, backup quarterback, played in a couple games last year, meant nothing to the team. No one cared. No one cares about him. No one cares what he thinks. But it's Michael Vick, and like you said, you want your quarterback confident. You want your quarterback to think that he's going to go out there and win a Super Bowl this year, next year, the year after that, and the year after that. You want him to do the things like Tom Brady did and all these other guys, like those teams that he's talking about. You want him to have that confidence because I don't think he had that confidence last year. I don't think any of the team had
I think that they felt like, not that they were going to walk out there and just win, because no team actually thinks that. When you hear a coach or somebody say that, we thought we could just walk out there and win, it's an extreme exaggeration. But that they felt like they could show up and play 85 or 80% of their best game, and they would probably still make the playoffs and be able to make a deep playoff run. I wasn't one of the people last year that hopped on the bandwagon and said that this is going to be a team that goes 16-0, wins the Super Bowl, and they're a dream team. I wasn't that. I felt like this was a team that had a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I didn't have them in the Super Bowl and could make a playoff run. They didn't do that. But there's reason this year really to think that what the Eagles brought in, and I'm not saying I haven't broken down every NFL schedule or anything because we're going to be heading out to training camp sometime over the next few weeks at Lehigh because it's not far from where we live. We're going to be heading out doing all our NFL predictions there. So this by no means means that I think that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. But all the problems that they had last year, a lot of them have gone away because if you look at what happened last year with Michael Vick, Michael Vick had so many interceptions last year, but a lot of them were tipped balls. A lot of them were just balls that a lot of times are not caught. Things went wrong for him. Deshaun Jackson just had a nightmare season. I think he'll be back and have a better season. I still would have liked if they could have added a better possession receiver onto this team, like a Plaxico Burress. And I mean, I guess anything's still possible, but it would probably take an injury to either Jackson or Macklin for that to really happen. But really, the holes were on the defense. And while I didn't look a lot into those 4-game wins at the end of the season because they were against 3 terrible teams and then the Cowboys' backups, the defense really improved. And this wide 9 concept is where you rush the passer. You have the perfect guy, Jason Babin, to do that on one end. We interviewed him. And then you have Trent Cole on the other end. What you also added into this team that already had a stacked defensive line, you had Colin Jenkins and Mike Patterson. And Mike Patterson still might be the starter, but you drafted Fletcher Cox with the number 12 overall pick. And Fletcher Cox, in a lot of people's mind, was the steal of this draft. So I think adding that in, and then the linebacking core, you added in not only a really solid middle linebacker when he's healthy in D'Amico Ryans, but you also were able to kind of move guys into better roles. You figure out that Casey Matthews is like a third down type of guy, and he works in the nickel type situations. You added in just some other pieces in the linebacking core, and then you can move some other pieces around. You already had a few guys here that were borderline starters last year. Then in the secondary, you got rid of Asante Samuel, who did not fit Juan Castillo's system, and you're going to get Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie a chance to start this year. Nnamdi Asomugha, as the season wore down and got down to the stretch, he really got better into Juan Castillo's system. And Juan Castillo really, as Nnamdi Asomugha pointed out, became a much better defensive coordinator. Everyone knows that Andy Reid made the foolish decision of making an offensive line coach a defensive coordinator. He did it, and Juan is still here. That's not really what I would have done, but he is still here. So you have Juan Castillo, and then also in the secondary, you had a problem with safeties. Nate Allen, while he played last year, was not necessarily healthy. And I think that, not that he's going to be like a premier safety, but he should improve. You also added in O.J. Atogwe, who's had some success in the NFL with the Rams and a few other teams. So I think that that's a big acquisition, not to mention LaShawn McCoy is one of the top 5 running backs in the NFL right now. I'm not saying that they're going to be a dynasty, because I really don't think they are. Andy Reid, I've been extremely critical of, and until he proves to me that he can win a Super Bowl, I don't see him winning a Super Bowl. But my point is that this is going to be an Eagles team that, while they won 8 games last year, and with the schedule they have in the division they play, and they might not win more than 1 or 2 more games, it might be enough to get them to the playoffs, and it might be enough for them to make a run, and who knows, maybe they could go to the Super Bowl. It's probably not what my prediction is going to be, but I'm not going to rule it out at this point because I haven't looked at the rest of the NFC and analyzed it the way that I need to make a valid prediction. So, I mean, overall, the media, the entire year, no matter what the Eagles do, unless the Eagles win the Super Bowl, this quote's going to be brought up not only for this year, but probably for the next few years. And while I understand that the media has to do this, doesn't it seem like it becomes a bit over the top at a certain point?
Well, obviously Philadelphia isn't as big of a media place that like New York and other places like that. But anytime the media has a chance to jump on something, they're going to jump on it. It is just the way it's gone for the last how many years? Ever since media has began. They blow things out of proportion. It's what they do. It's what they're good at. That's why they're media
and really, it's what makes them money. So
yeah, that's what they do. That's their job. So you can't really get mad at them, but at the same time, you are mad at them. It's that type of deal. The thing is, honestly, if I'm Michael Vick, that media's been hammering those guys for a while now. So you have to at least cut him a break. Maybe he said something that he might not say again in another statement, but he's not going to go back and say, "Oh, I didn't mean that," because that is completely foolish in itself.
Yeah, I mean, you want your players to be. What is Michael Vick supposed to say? You know what? No, we're going to come out here and we're going to suck again this season. We're going to get to 4-8. What else is Michael Vick supposed to say? People want cocky and confident athletes. When I hear an athlete, I mean, we've interviewed a few guys and asked them, who do you think's going to win the World Series? And they've said other teams. I mean, if I was a fan of that team, I'd be pissed. So,
obviously, if you're a team like the Padres or something like that, maybe you're going to vote for
we've interviewed people
from
in
the
playoff
Reds.
races.
Yeah, and from the Reds, other teams that have been in positions to actually do something.
And they've said other teams.
And the Yankees. Come on, man.
And while that was probably a smart statement, and we're talking about Sam LaCure of the Reds, who we interviewed last year, it's not what you want to hear when your team's not out of the playoff race and you have a chance still to do something. You want your athlete to be confident. And me and KJ know this, and I guess that some of the reporters out there now either didn't play sports at a high enough level or weren't passionate enough or
just didn't care enough to want to win.
Weren't good enough to understand that once you reach like the middle school, late middle school, high school level, when you're out there, that is kind of like your life. That's what you want to do the best at. That's what you think about. That's what keeps you up at night. And you want to have the drive and you want to be the best player out there. And people have been critical in the past of Michael Vick not having that attitude when he was in Atlanta. And now that he has that attitude in Philly, the media is blowing it up. I understand that the media has a job to do, but at the same time, you can bring this up. I understand it's a story, but it doesn't really need to be a repetitive thing and
it doesn't need to be a negative thing. It doesn't need to be a negative thing. Like last year, obviously that was a negative comment that led to negative things, and their season was complete. Their season wasn't bad because of that comment. That had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Their season was bad because they built pressure on themselves. The comment was part of it, but it wasn't the whole reason. They played bad. They couldn't catch a break at all until they were 4-8, and it was too late. They had nothing to do. And even then, they were still in a position where they could have made the playoffs. They didn't because, I mean, that whole entire division fell apart, but obviously the Giants ended up making it over them.
They happened to get hot at the right time. Right?
Yeah, so, I mean, to go 4-8 and go on a 4-game win streak and leaving the season, obviously it's a heartbreak not to make the playoffs, but obviously that was probably a confidence booster to those guys, showing them that we can win, even if it was against crappy teams. They're all NFL teams. They all are playing on the NFL level for a reason. They're all good, and they all have potential to be something better than the level behind them, because that's why they're there.
Yeah, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm not saying that this is my prediction, but as a fan of this team, I hold them to a high standard. Andy Reid's been here for a long time, and he has not won a Super Bowl. He's been to one, and really in a lot of playoff games, me and KJ and AC, and when he was on the show, and a few other people were on the air, I guess you would call YouTube, when the Eagles lost to the Packers. And we were pissed because Andy Reid was out adjusted. So he has a high thing to be held to this year. This whole organization is under a lot of pressure because a lot of people feel like it's been the same message preached here. Andy Reid is really the one under the microscope this year. And even Michael Vick. If Michael Vick has the same season as last year, the Eagles have paid just about all the guaranteed money in his contract.
Yeah.
And they could essentially get out of the contract, and they drafted Nick Foles, and I mean, they could go in a different direction. I don't see that happening, but it's certainly a possibility. So to hear good things from Michael Vick, to hear that he's worked harder this offseason, it's a good, positive thing. Yeah. And the dynasty quote is going to annoy me, but it's not like the Vince Young thing, because Vince Young sucked. Michael Vick different. Is not going to suck. Vince Young, for most of that season, had no chance to make an impact, except that negative one that he made by making that quote. And really, I got to shake Vince Young's hand at training camp last year. I didn't have a problem with the quote at the time, but that was sticking your foot in your mouth. This is a dream team. Why are you that cocky when you're coming into a deal? We're going to be the backup quarterback. That's what I never understood. Michael Vick should be this confident. He should be this cocky. And if you don't understand that an athlete needs to be great like this, it's when Kobe Bryant the other week said that he believed that his dream team could beat the 92 dream, and everyone flipped out. Well, what do you want him to say? We're gonna get wrecked. Obviously, I don't think he believes that. I don't believe that. But what do you want him to say? He believes.
Well, he does.
And he might believe.
He does believe it because he's Kobe Bryant. He's a competitor. He's one of the best competitors. He's labeled as one of the best scorers of all time. He's gonna say, yeah, I can beat you. I can beat you 1-on-1. I can beat you with a team 5-on-5.
And he should, because he's earned that. He's had a great career. And my point here is, obviously, Michael Vick is not to the NFL what Kobe Bryant is to the National Basketball Association. But my point is that Michael Vick should be confident coming into this season because he has a team that a lot of things went wrong for, and they just missed the playoffs last year, and you sort of saw signs throughout those late games that things began to click. You saw it 2 years ago when Michael Vick was the MVP runner-up. Michael Vick's under a lot of pressure with these quotes. Andy Reid's under a lot of pressure with these quotes. We'll see what happens, but I can guarantee you this channel will not be blowing the dynasty thing out of proportion. It's not because we're Eagles fans. I'm an Eagles fan. KJ's a Steelers fan. It's not because we're Eagles fans, but it's because that's not what we're about here. We're not making money off this anyway because we're getting screwed over by Google and YouTube. So I don't need 1,000 views every video, although I'd like it. I don't need that every single video. I just need the best product to be put on this channel. Check out therealsportstalk.wordpress.com. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/therealsportstalk. Follow me on Twitter @CashKelly_TRST, and follow KJ.
17 Devils, 17, baby.
This is the realest sports talk you will ever get. Deuces.